Welcome to Behind the Doors, the podcast where we take you behind the scenes of residential real estate investing. I'm your host, Dan Noma Jr., here with my co-host, Marvin Cruz.
We're here to help you unlock the best strategies and practice for investors. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro looking to scale your portfolio.
We've spent decades navigating the ever-changing world of real estate, and now we're sharing everything we've learned to help you succeed.
From off-market deals to cash flow management and everything in between, we'll break it down and bring you actionable insights that can make a real difference in your investments.
So get ready to open the door to new opportunities and take your real estate investing to the next level. Let's dive in.
All right, Dan, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing awesome, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm full of smiles today for two reasons. One, we got a special guest.
Yeah.
But two, this is our first time with a guest together.
I know.
In our audience, seeing you by yourself and me by myself, but we've never been together. But without further ado, we have Mr. Kurt Byers here with us. And Kurt Byers is from New Western. He is the head of business development and partnerships. And if I got that wrong, Kurt, let our audience know. But I think I got it right. Kurt, how are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, we're doing fantastic. We're doing fantastic, buddy. And so just a little bit about New Western, and then Kurt, I would love for you to just share a little bit, but how this thing all started, right? I read that you guys were a bunch of entrepreneurs at the end of the day. You created this amazing marketplace, and here we are years later, and you guys are doing some amazing things. So without further ado, I'll let you just give a brief introduction.
Yeah. So as far as what I do, head of business development and partnerships, we do a lot on the acquisition, disposition, investor resources, trainings for our agents, REI on tap, which is our quarterly events in every market. So a lot of that's just really trying to get more business with agents, wholesalers, contractors, investors, et cetera. And then New Western overall, as you said, we're a real estate investment marketplace, been around since 2008. Transacting on a home every 13 minutes. So we're buying homes cash and then putting them in our marketplace. And we work with over 200,000 investors to purchase distressed and investor type properties, mainly in the single family space. So it's been really good. It's a fun company, and having really good few years here lately, and want to continue that growth. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I think you guys are being humble. Sell a property every 13 minutes. That's one thing.
Unreal.
And, a statistic that I read, and Kurt, you tell me if this is true or not, but I read that you guys were the nation's largest home buyer last year. So you had outpaced all of the iBuyers, you had outpaced all of the institutions, any private equity groups, and that New Western was the largest buyer in the country.
Yeah, so our largest private buyers. So we don't have any outside money. So there are probably some the Blackstone groups and things like that outpaced us, but we were the largest private home buyer in the country. Yeah.
Wow,
that's awesome! Amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's big, man.
Yeah.
So how did you get in? How did you get started with New Western? What's your story?
Yeah, so I was living in Florida, working for NBC Sports with their golf technology. Have a wife and 3 kids, and one of my college buddies and best friends, we were in each other's weddings, was the VP of Business Intelligence here, still is. And the partnership manager role opened up, and he kind of just sent me a text and was like, I know you went to TCU. I know you've talked about moving back to DFW. So, applied, got it. And just ever since, it's been a really cool kind of matchup of my skill set and, helping New Western. And, it's a great company to get in and learn real estate investing, obviously. So, it's just kind of been a perfect marriage ever since.
Yeah. How many employees do you guys have?
So corporate employees, we have a little over 200, and then we have about 600 or 700 agents.
Wow. That's amazing. So can you share with our group a little bit? Obviously, Marvin and I understand the business model, but maybe, for somebody that, is just walking in and didn't know much about, what you guys do, if you could break it down for us on A to Z, how does a transaction happen with you guys? Because I do think it's unique, on what you guys do and how you do it and how you what I've said to people, I said, New Western is like a wholesaler, but they do everything above board. Everything is super clean. Everything is legit. So you've almost legitimized the wholesale space. So yeah, if you could just, break down, process from, when somebody submits a property to you all the way through to closing and then the disposition side, I think that would be awesome for our group to hear how you guys think about that and how you guys have built that seamless process to do so.
Yeah, so I can kind of break it down as if it was coming from, say like a traditional retail real estate agent that comes across a property. So, they're typically looking for listings that are going to be on the MLS. They're nicer, they're updated. But those are the types of homes we don't really want to buy. I mean, if there's financial distress, sure, we can close in 7 days and buy it cash. But, typically we're looking for the ugly homes, the ones that real estate agents don't want to list. They don't want to be a project manager. They don't want to have the headache of it. And so essentially you would, get that property. You don't want to waste money on leads because you're already paid for it. You send it to us, to one of our agents, to me, whoever, and we'll basically get on the MLS because all of our agents are licensed and have MLS access. We close on all the properties. So they'll comp it, look at, how much renovations needed. They can go walk the property with the agent if that, is needed and helps the seller. And then they'll comp it, give you an offer. And once you go under contract, we then put it within our marketplace to our 200,000 buyers. Typically, each market has their own set of buyers, and our sales team will go and work the buyers based on their buy box and find a fit for that property. And so once we do that, the buyer signs, and then we'll, cover the seller's closing costs. We'll make it super easy. We close it with cash, and then, as you mentioned, kind of above the board stuff, we guarantee a clear title. We take it to title. We double close on it with cash, and then the seller or the buyer can either use hard money or cash. We own Sherman Bridge, so if they use us or an outside lender, and then we close, and as soon as title's clear, so we can close in 5 days, 30 days, whatever. So that's kind of the process from a real estate agent if they submitted it.
That's awesome. So, about like the stuff that you guys buy, I mean, obviously like the distress and, kind of the ugly house, purchase, but, is there a price point cap in the markets that you guys serve that you're looking at? And, do you buy condos and townhomes, or what exactly are you guys looking for there?
Yeah. So as far as caps, it kind of depends on the market. I mean, we're buying $3-4 million homes in LA as long as they need some work. But places like Birmingham or Indianapolis, the homes are going to skew, less expensive, but there's not really a cap. It's like if there's an investor who wants, a 20 unit apartment building and we find it, like we'll secure that for them. It's just a matter of what our investors are looking for. But if the majority of the investors are focused on $100,000, $2,000 homes in San Antonio, that's what our, our acquisition agents are going to gear towards. But there's not really a cap per se. But yeah, we do condos, townhomes, family or small multifamily, 1 to 4, up to 50 doors. If an investor wants something bigger, we'll go out and find it. It's just our bread and butter is that kind of single family residential.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. What about markets that you guys are in? Are you everywhere? Where are you guys?
We're in about 40 markets, so we're not everywhere. A lot of the traditional kind of hot real estate investing markets, but we're not like New York or Vermont or Seattle, but we're in a lot of, the Sun Belt, the South, the Carolinas, Philly, Boston, DC, Indy, Chicago, Colorado. There's about 40 of them. So.
Yeah. So for our investors that are listening to this podcast, can you walk us through what does onboarding look like? How long does that take? What's that process look like on you guys' end?
Yeah, so essentially you reach out to one of our agents or through the website, and we'll connect you with one of our agents. But every investor has to essentially have a conversation with one of our agents to understand the process because, as you kind of alluded to, Dan, we do things very processed, and it makes it a lot harder on us regulatory-wise and process-wise. But we want the customer experience to be the same for everyone. So that's why we guarantee clear title. That's why you have to have certain things where, a lot of outfits don't do it like us, but, they have a lot of customers that have bad experiences because it's not a clear title. There's a bunch of different issues. So we do a lot of extra work to ensure that that process is there and that the people on there are actually looking for properties. So when you submit, you talk to one of our agents, you sign a disclosure, which essentially just says we're not going to go around New Western, and you basically get onto our marketplace and can start, seeing properties in an hour or two.
Nice. And it's free, right? Like as a buyer to
Yeah.
be on your platform, it's free. Get access to all those deals. So yeah, that's fantastic. And then an agent sending you an opportunity, that's free too, right? There, you guys don't charge an
Yeah.
agent to do any of that. What's the response
Yeah,
time?
no,
Like
and if it's an agent sitting to us and it's, off market, there's a lot of times we won't take our agent commission. We'll just give it to them to
yeah,
get the deal done. So
sweet. That's awesome. Well, let's pivot a little bit and talk about like the market itself.
Yep.
So obviously you guys have a pulse on the market, being that largest private buyer in the country last year. You must have a pretty good sense on, where things are headed and what's going on in the market. What do you guys, what are you guys seeing today? Like, what's the consensus kind of across the board in some of the markets that you guys operate in, as far as market conditions, and what the outlook looks like maybe through the end of the quarter, or then maybe the next 6 months?
yeah, I mean, I think there was a little bit of a slowdown with the election. Post-election, I mean, our phones were ringing off the hook with investors back in. We had a really, really strong Q4, and Q1's turning out really good. So there's a lot of opportunity, I think, within real estate investing. I know there's, a lot of talks about high mortgage rates and different things going on, but, in the state of the fact that there's the affordable housing crisis, there's a lot of people that can't, get into homes. Investors, because of the systems they have in place and their ability to get homes at a lower price point, we're bringing them back to the market cheaper than the average. So, there's a lot of affordable homes coming back on the market, and with most people's, that kind of 3-2 type home, 4-3. There's a lot of homes that starter families are now able to purchase because investors brought them back. And so, from our point of view, the outlook of, the market is that there's still a lot of opportunity for the types of homes, like new builds maybe slow down and the kind of supply might slow down, but there's a lot of opportunity for you to kind of still go out and find houses, especially if they're distressed. So we're seeing a lot of activity on our end. Obviously the overall market with the mortgage rates staying high, that can probably be a little persistently annoying, but I do think that as more inventory gets on the market and some of the regulations maybe ease up, we'll see a little more activity. But from our point of view, it's looking great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've seen similar to, a lot of our clients are telling us that, the clean, move-in ready product is selling in the market and is moving really quickly. In fact, I listed one of my own investment properties on Friday last week. So we got photos, listed it on Friday, and then by Monday I had 3 over asking price offers on the property.
Oh, wow.
And it's a very modest property, right? Like
Right.
in North Phoenix. So, I think that's a good signal for the market that, and all 3 buyers in this case were first time buyers.
Yeah.
So it's like, you keep hearing about people going, oh man, the rates. And yeah, I mean, I get it. Like if you had an opportunity to get a 3% interest rate or a 4% interest rate, good on you, right?
Yeah.
Like that's amazing. But I'm just not sure that like, there's no economic reason that would ever come back. We may never see that in our lifetime. And I think now that people are realizing that that's true, are just saying, hey, look, this is the new reality. We got to get in and we got to start to buy a little bit. And, we're seeing activity again pick up, especially in that like nice, clean, move and ready
Yeah.
stuff. A lot of the stuff that's got like, I use the word crunchy, but it's, anything that's got a little hair on it, that stuff seems to be sitting on the market for a little while, and that kind of tells me that maybe that customer has got, they've got their cash for their down payment. They've got their money for, moving expenses and closing costs and everything else. But then like this additional slush fund
Renovations.
to like renovate,
Yeah.
they're just, they're looking at the alternative and going, well, if I don't have to do that, I don't really want to,
Right.
because let's be honest, like the cost of construction and like goods and all of that has gone up too.
Yeah.
Right. So it's, from a consumer's perspective, I think there's a lot of runway left for, good quality flippers to play in our market, and see some really cool activity.
100%. Yeah, Kurt, we spend this podcast educating, right? At the end of the day, we want investors to make sound-based decisions. Don't buy inventory without having facts and data. Do you got a golden rule for investors that you live by that you want to tell the audience?
Yeah, something I kind of talk about is like, and this goes for non-investors too, but buy what you want to buy. I know that sounds so whatever, but there's times people are like, oh, it's an hour away. They said it's a good deal, but you don't know comps there. You don't know what goes there, what rental rates might be. So like stick to your plan, I guess. So have a plan about what you want to invest in, how you want to invest that money, where you want the money to go. So if you have absolutely no expertise in something and you don't have the lifeline to get help with it, don't just take it on because you think you'll figure it out. Like have a plan before you put the money down and the time and effort into it. So I mean, there's a lot of golden rules about different ways to invest, but you got to know what you're doing and have a plan to do it. I'm all for getting started and figuring out on the way, but there's a certain limit of how much you should have to figure out when you purchase something that expensive.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because that sounds like you. Have a plan.
Yeah.
What's the plan and stick to it. So I love that you said that, Kurt.
Yeah, the one that I shared on Monday night, Sunday night, I spoke at this like new real estate investors event, and they asked me a similar question, and I shared with them. I said, to me, it's like build the team, and have like really quality team members on your roster, and it really starts with like your acquisition, and trusting who you buy from is important. I mean, you get seasoned later on and you're, doing deals and you've seen kind of everything, like I think you could probably navigate any transaction at that point, right? But if you're newer and you're just kind of getting into the business, keep it simple. Like go to like trusted resources to buy your properties from and transact with, because they'll help you, like, and they're designed to help you that way, because I know like from our perspective, like our assistance to the buyer is really around data, right? We provide a lot of data and analytics and, information to buyers that they probably aren't seeing in a lot of other places, mixed with some inventory that they're not getting anywhere else. Right. And that's kind of our value proposition to those guys. But I think it's like building out that team and getting, acquisition dialed in. And then it's like, okay, you're going to get this property in escrow and you're going to inspect it. And how are you going to inspect it? Are you going to go out and inspect it? Or are you going to get somebody to inspect it? And then who is that person that's going to do it? And hopefully it's your contractor. And, the contractor's got to be somebody that's worked with investors before. It can't just be,
I love that.
that retail, contractor. They're great, right? They just don't understand the nuances of being an investor and being very like, I think a contractor working with investors is like, they're just dialed in on pricing and they're geared for volume versus, the retail person that's just, I would hire to do my kitchen. The two are probably not the same type of contractor. So just like, I think as a newbie, you got to like, listen to stuff like we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Create that kind of checklist of your team, putting all that stuff in place, and then just understanding like where the right people are to help you, because there is a lot of like, there's a lot of bad, right? I don't know, Kurt, you may know like how many states wholesaling is illegal in. I think it's illegal in like 12 states or something now, right?
Yeah, we have like 9 lawyers on staff who've tracked this, so they probably know a little better. But I think there's regulations or laws in 20, of varying degrees, based on do you have to have your license, and then when you have your license, is it now legal? There's a lot of variance in it, but it's to know all of that is very important, because there's a lot of title companies that'll just stop the transaction if you're trying to wholesale, more than one deal a year or whatever. So.
Yeah, I know like in South Carolina now, if you're like wholesaling is illegal. Like the new rule is you have to have a license to wholesale. And if you have a license, you can't wholesale. That's how they made the regulation.
Okay.
And so any other questions? I mean, that's
exactly.
Like, it seems pretty black and white, but the reason that they put that in place is like I met with our commissioner here,
Yeah.
and what she shared with me was that the number one complaint that they get from consumers is around wholesaling, right? It's like there's just so many like people doing it wrong and predatory around it
Yeah.
that, it's obviously refreshing to work with a company that, does it, but they do it in a way that isn't predatory.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a big deal and important. Like,
Yeah.
just calling one of those bandit signs on the side of the road as a consumer, you run the risk of getting into some weird stuff.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not like,
Yep.
I wished all of those guys would just play above board, and
Yep.
they have an opportunity to do it. It just kind of makes me scratch my head sometimes when they don't,
Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately it became illegal just because of the bad apples at the end of the day, right? Being clear on communication.
Yeah.
And so that's a good point. That's
Right.
Yeah,
totally a
because
good point.
I mean, think of how many sellers in difficult situations wholesalers have helped. Where it's like that ability to go in and find properties like that and give them an opportunity to sell their house, which most people wouldn't buy if you listed it, is very important in our economy for the housing situation. But if you have enough bad apples to where, all you hear is the bad, then it's like, come on, like it's providing a really good service and people are making money and everyone wants to make money, but let's do it in a way that's not going to make everyone, upset. And so, some of the new laws are definitely geared towards that. But I think if it's a good opportunity to do it the right way, get your name out there properly versus kind of, making some bad apples look even worse. So.
Yeah, I think it's just because it's, doesn't require a license in a lot of states to do it, that, there's no regulatory committee saying, hey, you got to do it this way, right? It takes like leaders and companies to go, we are going to take the initiative to do this the right way. And that's important, and not like, I don't want like our listeners to think like I'm anti-wholesale.
No.
Not like,
there's a place for it for sure.
Yeah, I think they're great, right? It's like, but just like, if you're going to do it, maybe like if you're brand new, like if I was a brand new person getting into that business, and if I just wanted to do that, honestly, I'd go work for these guys like first.
That's a good
what
point.
I would go do.
100%.
Right. And just see how they do it in a big way, and then go, okay, maybe I can carve out my niche or something like that. I don't know, but it just seems like, there's a lot of just like, because I had a guy call me recently, a couple weeks ago. He doesn't actually even have any properties tied up himself. He just wholesales other people's properties. Like he goes out and he just puts people in place on other people's properties. And I said, how do you guarantee yourself to get paid? Like, what do you, I started asking these questions, and he didn't really have a lot of answers. I could just tell he was like brand new, and poor guy, he's making calls and he's on the phone. And I just kind of felt bad for him, that maybe it works. I don't know. I don't know.
I had the same conversation with a guy yesterday, and I was like, how do you guarantee you don't have a contract at all? He didn't have anything.
Yeah.
And that just scared the hell out of me. So I just told him, I said, no more handshakes, buddy. I can tell you that. Any advice, no more handshake deals. So.
Right. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny, man.
Go ahead, Dan.
No, I was going to say, so Kurt, like, obviously we talked about the market and where you guys are seeing things headed. What, if you're a real estate agent, a lot of our listeners too are real estate agents. What do you, with the regulatory changes that's happened with those guys in the last, since August really of last year, how do you see that, playing into the greater market picture? Is that something you guys are keeping an eye on too, being that you play with a lot of agents and work with them, or has this become, like, you seeing it as an issue at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, one, for buyers like us where we can forego the commission, I think it helps in that regard because the seller doesn't have to worry about paying a buyer agency commission. But for the buyer agents, I think understanding that like you need to go out and find opportunities for people. So like you can't just guarantee that people are going to, want to pay you. But I mean, if you bring good deals to people, they're going to pay you. I mean, that's just, so for us, it's really, we're trying to get into brokerages, at the regional level and just say, you don't come across a ton of these yourself, but, if you can represent us for the deals you bring us from your brokerage, and we'll pay you your buyer agency commission. So just go ask, every agent, in your connection who has, deals like this coming up. So I think there's probably different ways that, a retail agent views it, but for us, it's, we want to help buyer agents get paid more, and we want to do more deals. And if they can work within their brokerage to work with us, then that's a win-win for us. But I think there's a lot of, potential changes coming around with off-market versus office exclusive versus,
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. I don't know how it's all going to shake out, but I think it's just, kind of like the wholesalers. You got to adapt to what's coming up. And if, the new regulations make it harder to be successful, the ones that work really hard at it are going to crush it.
Right.
If you can find a way around whatever regulation change is coming and use it to your advantage, I think it's just an opportunity to beat out all the people that might just change professions because they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
But on our end, we don't typically take commission. We do sometimes if it's being offered and we can make the deal work. But so it's not something that really impacts our side of it. But I hope it kind of leads to more conversations around how buyer agents can make money by utilizing resources within their own brokerage to work with people like us.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of like it's almost opened up the playing field and like made it easier to transact in a lot of ways. Like with this deal, I'll use this example of this property I just listed. So I listed it myself, and so I put it on the market. I got the calls from the agents, and of course they're asking me, will you consider any seller concessions? And like, are you offering a buyer broker commission? And the way I proposed it back to them is I said, absolutely. In both cases, it's all just going to depend about the transaction or the deal.
Yep.
And, submit the deal to me, but I'm open to everything. And, in all cases, like we worked it out, and it just seems to be working itself out. A friend of mine is the number one agent in San Diego. And he shared with me that his buyer agents are now actually making more money. He's averaging 4% on their buy side fees now as a result, right? Because they're just negotiating better. They have because it is wide open.
Right.
It didn't mean we're going to negotiate and you get less.
Right.
That's not in that's not the regulation.
Yeah.
The regulation is like it's up for negotiation, and they're just doing a great job of negotiating, and they're earning more, which is awesome. So, I think that there's really cool stuff that's coming from this. The inventory side of things, Compass is like the big company talking about this right now. They're coming out with their own like almost inter MLS, right? Inside of their own brokerage, that if you work with a Compass agent, you get access to their exclusive listings inside of Compass in California. And they have such a market presence there. It could play an impact. And I'm like watching this one like a hawk, because I think that could be really interesting as agents now have an option whether or not to join the local board or not, that the local MLS. They might start holding, private listings like that inside of their brokerage again. That's how it used to be, like way back when, before the MLS existed. It was like a private world like that. And I think it could be interesting if that happens, because then it's like, you're gonna have agents hanging their license with brokerages that are aligned with their values and like aligned with the volume of listings in those marketplaces. And it could be really cool. Like, I don't know. There's a lot coming down the pipe for sure. So something to keep an eye on.
No, I appreciate it. Hey, one last thing for Kurt, from our agent perspective, we see a lot of commercials out there where it's no repairs, quick close. How's that possible? And is it true, right? Because I know you guys are advertising, but just talk to my agents really quick. Like, when you say no repairs and quick close, what do you actually mean? Is that actually what it says?
Yeah, I mean, if you send us a property and they need to close in 7 days and they can get a clear title and they're like, hey, I inherited this house. I live in Oklahoma, but I need to sell this one in Arizona. You don't have to show up to the house. You don't have to clean it. We'll clean it, repair it, do everything needed. So, I mean, not every company can probably live up to the 7-day thing, but on the no repair thing, I mean, if they don't even want to like take the dishes out of their dishwasher, they don't, it's not like an Airbnb. You don't have to do the dishes for me. Just leave the house clean or dirty, don't do a single repair, and our investors take care of all of that. So
That is awesome. That is awesome.
I got one more for you, Kurt. Let's have a little fun before we let you go. What's the biggest horror story you guys have had? I mean, you guys are buying some ugly houses, I'm sure. What's the ugliest situation that you guys have had that was rumbled through the office there? Because I'm sure there's some funny ones. You guys could probably write a book about it, but maybe give our listeners one example of a fun one.
It wasn't when I was working here, but I have heard that one of the properties we acquired, there ended up being a dead body in the freezer in the basement.
Oh.
And so that instance, it probably went past 7 days because people had to get involved. But, it's just you run across a lot of things. So when we say you don't have to clean, I do not mean leave the dead bodies in your basement. But for sure, we've come across like a lot of hoarder situations, drug houses, and things that's just part of, buying distressed properties is you have to deal with the stress that people leave behind, but certainly did not want to come across any dead bodies in the freezer. So
Can you imagine?
That's definitely one of the horror story ones for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine being that person? Open the fridge and you're like, wait,
are you kidding me?
Are you joking?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The poor agent that had to open that thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Well, Kurt, man, thanks. I appreciate your time. Marvin and I like to have a little fun with this thing, so we enjoy having you join us here, and your partnership is super valuable for us. So, thanks for sharing a little bit about your story and New Western to our crew. I think our listeners are going to love that, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Yeah, next time we're in Dallas, Kurt, we're going to hit you up, man. Get some lunch or something.
As you should. There's a couple. If you guys like sushi, there's a couple spots I'll take you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks, Kurt. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah.
See ya.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Doors. We hope you found today's insights valuable for your real estate investing journey.
Remember, real estate success doesn't happen overnight, but with the right tools and strategies, you can build long-term wealth and create passive income.
If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with others who are passionate about real estate investing.
Don't forget to follow us on social media for more tips and exclusive content.
Until next time, keep unlocking new opportunities, and we'll see you on the next episode of Behind the Doors.